If Harry Potter was evil, it would cause the story to drastically change, and plunge the wizarding world into years, if not decades, of misery and hardship. Let's go over some of the basics and details of what would happen. It is difficult to believe that our beloved character could turn evil. It is true that Harry has consistently been on the edge of maybe not evil, but doing something he'd regret. Harry has done some questionable things to achieve victory over Voldemort. Some that could even put him in the anti-hero category. That could be a little dramatic, but look at the evidence. Harry has used the Cruciatus Curse twice, and repeatedly used the Imperius Curse on a goblin. But what would have to happen to place young Harry on the path of darkness? There are two options I have, and I plan to use both. Voldemort and the Dursleys. For 11 years, Harry has faced much pain from his relatives. If Harry was never able to escape Hogwarts for a majority of the year, there's a slim chance he would snap. But that's not what's going to happen here. Don't worry, Harry will still be heading to Hogwarts. Wait, you thought Harry was going to not snap? Didn't you read the title? What if Harry Potter was evil? Another option would be the piece of Voldemort's soul that is inside Harry. Sure, it doesn't seem to affect Harry in his younger years, but what if it did? This has caused Harry to start to act like Voldemort, not like Voldemort, but Tom Riddle. Each of Voldemort's Horcruxes were each different in one way or another. Tom Riddle's story seemed to act the way Voldemort did at the time he made the Horcrux. As for the other ones, I have no clue. Besides that one, the other Horcruxes don't seem to have a personality. I'm sure they do, but we never had a chance to learn more about them. So here's my idea. I'm combining both scenarios, more or less, to create the perfect story. The Dursleys will up their cruelty to Harry, but just a little bit, like 1.5% more. Also, the piece of Voldemort's soul will have a greater effect on Harry as he gets older. If these two ideas mashed together, we will literally see the origins, school days of Voldemort, and the rise of the Death Eaters in real time through Harry. Sure, it won't be an exact copy to a number of things, but we'll be getting the gist of it. With that out of the way, let's get started with Book 1. With Harry facing mistreatment from the Dursleys and Voldemort's soul growing an influence over Harry's actions, Harry's time with the Dursleys is much different. Dudley, in a way, fears Harry to some extent. Whenever the two are at school, Harry would have his fun. If Dudley and his friends try to mess with him, they would be on the receiving end of some uncontrolled magic. This is similar to what happened to many of Tom Riddle's quote-unquote friends during his orphanage days. Now, I don't think that Harry would do anything too bad. Keep in mind that Voldemort was emotionless, not because of experience, but because of who knows what. Harry, on the other hand, would not be emotionless, so we can expect any form of punishment, quote-unquote, Harry chose to give out would not be as harsh. We can also assume that Harry already knows he can talk to snakes. I'm sure at first this would frighten him, but he would get used to it. With this, we can assume there would be a few snakes outside the house, Harry's only friends. Now here comes a big change. When Harry first gets his letter, I think he would be protected of it. So after the Dursleys take the letter and see what it is, Harry should snatch it back. Of course, the Dursleys would try to take it back, but Harry would fight back. I think the conflict would go as far as Harry tripping Uncle Vernon, and Vernon hitting his face hard on the floor. Did I just do this so I could humiliate Uncle Vernon? You bet I did. I can do the same to Dudley if the thought strikes me, and you bet it has. Harry would stare down on his aunt and cousin, who would threaten them to stay out of his way. He'd run to his cupboard and would open the letter. At first, he would think it was some kind of prank, from one of Dudley's friends or the Dursleys themselves. He needed to find out. He would walk out of the cupboard and stared at his relatives. He would question sneakily so they would slip if it was a prank or not. It was somewhat effective. As far as Harry could tell, this was not a prank, and the Dursleys definitely knew something. But they would not break. He would try to look up this Hogwarts to no avail. The letters would keep coming. Instead of Vernon trying to keep them from him, he would let Harry have them. He realized that there wasn't a point to hide them from him now. They would still go to that weird lighthouse, and Hagrid would show up. I know what you're probably going to say. You're sad because Harry is probably going to be mean to Hagrid. And to that, I say no. My reasoning is Voldemort saw. I'm just going to be warning you, I'm using the same reason for an overabundance of things down the line, and for if things change or not change. Voldemort saw L's cunning along with Harry's emotion would still have Harry become friends with Hagrid. The whole scene in the lighthouse can go the same, but when Harry finds out that Vernon had been keeping Hogwarts a secret from him, I want Harry to go over and push her into the wall. Everybody in the room would be off guard, but I'm sure Harry would cool down, or Hagrid would try to stop it. Whatever the case may be, Harry and Hagrid would head off to Diagon Alley. The entire segment can stay the same all the way up to Harry leaving. My only critique is Harry's going to be asking a lot more questions. Not just for Hagrid, but to Draco and Ollivander. He would probably ask Draco about Hogwarts. Two things will happen. I think Draco would probably answer some of the questions, but would call Harry a fool because anyone going to Hogwarts should probably know these basics. He then would realize that Harry was Harry. Draco would probably say something like, "Whoa, you're Harry Potter." Harry would reply with, "So what if I am?" Harry would then give Draco a sick smile. Draco would become instantly terrified. Did I do this to make Draco cry like a baby? You bet I did. As for Ollivander, the questioning would be about wands and how they work. Ollivander would then say that Harry reminded him of another young man that also came here too. Harry would ask who this young man was. To his disappointment, Ollivander would tell him that we do not talk about that man, leaving Harry curious. When Harry and Hagrid talk in the Leaky Cauldron, the conversation of Harry about asking his parents and learning about Voldemort will stay the same. This would spark two things, though. Harry would realize that Voldemort was probably the young man that Ollivander had talked about. This caused a deep hatred of Voldemort for two reasons. One, to knock out the Abbess, Voldemort killed his parents. He was never able to meet his parents. He was never able to be included into the wizarding world until now. And he had to deal with torment from his own relatives. 2. Ollivander said that Harry reminded him of Voldemort. How can that be? From that point, Harry vowed to get revenge on Voldemort at any cost. As soon as Harry thought about it, he got scared. He didn't understand why had he gotten scared. I probably should mention it now. Harry's motives for evil deeds that he will do for the lust of revenge. This is the best way to explain why he was evil. Harry's plan he will make at his time in Hogwarts would be based around revenge on Voldemort. This goal in mind, we will see a very different Harry Potter than in the original story. Harry will put his whole heart and soul into his studies, maybe even surpassing Hermione. Maybe. Because of this, it's Snape's for a class of Harry. Instead of Snape ridiculing Harry with his lack of study, Harry will actually know most of the stuff, if not all. This probably would shock Snape and even remind Snape of Lily. And when Harry gets his invisibility cloak from Dumbledore, he will begin repeatedly revisiting the restricted section, learning many forms of dark magic. I don't want to go through the entire story as much as that would be fun. That could put the video about 40 minutes, and we don't want that. So to help us with that, I'll be going over the relationships on the friends that Harry meets in the story. We will be going from the first to the last of his friends he meets. Now let's get started. Ron is Harry's best friend and one of his first friends Harry's ever had. But what happens when Harry cannot bother with friends? I believe Ron will still end up sitting with Harry on Hogwarts Express. This meeting would be very different. Harry would allow Ron to stay in the cabin car, but Harry wouldn't want to connect to him. When Ron asks if he's truly Harry Potter, Harry would give a sigh, not wanting to go back to his question. He would simply say yes and show him the scar. When the trolley shows up to hand out snacks, Harry would pay for Ron's snacks because he felt bad for Ron. This event will get the two to talk, and that's how they become friends. Just a tiny bit differently. For events forward, Harry would convince Ron to join his cause of ending Voldemort for 2 reasons. 1, a purpose. Ron, throughout the Harry Potter series, has looked to fit in and have a purpose, something that would make him better. Harry could offer him that, along with the second reason, friendship. Seeing the 2 are friends, I believe this would compel Ron to join the cause. Maybe. I feel like it would take longer for her to become friends with Harry and Ron due to the 2's interesting behaviors. And she could be a bit mad at Harry because he's at the top of the class in the story. Hermione might feel a bit of a rivalry at some point, though. She might force herself to ask him for tips due to his success. When this does happen, she will at some point become his friend, this would eventually lead her following Harry on the path of evil, determined to learn as much magic as she can. I want Hermione to become this group's genius, kinda how she is now, only she's evil. I know these 2 are 2 different people, but it makes it easier for me. Once Harry made friends with Ron, Harry would try to make friends with the rest of his family. Fred George would be the most accessible and be willing to listen to Harry, unlike Percy. Fred George would instantly take a liking to Harry and become his friends. It probably helped that Harry was now Secret of Gryffindor. Actually, no, he's not. Sorry, forgot about that. Harry would even make an approach to recruit them. Harry wouldn't even make an approach to recruit them until much later in the year. They at first thought he was joking, but soon realized he was deadly serious. I think they would eventually join Harry, and here's why. 1, they're his friends. They would believe that his intentions were good and probably wouldn't question him, due to him being their friend. 2, they think it would be fun. When I mean fun, when I don't actually mean that's what they think. That's probably what they would say for a joke, but my mom gave me another thought about reading this, trying to be different. Though, throughout the 7 Harry Potter books, we have seen Fred and George try to be the opposite of what their family was. Sure, they have similar ideals, but they didn't want to be the strict rule followers that most of the family was. This could be a way to break ranks. Nothing. Just nothing. Anyone in their right mind would know that it's fatal mistakes to trust Percy Weasley. Sure, he's a good man, but of what Harry has in store, Percy would immediately blab to Dumbledore. Also, he's my least favorite Weasley. Neville. At the beginning of the series, Neville was to be the one who was always picked on. This, of course, changed throughout the books, and Neville's confidence grew to the highest. But this is book 1, and Neville's the one who's always picked on. I think Neville would be the most eager to join Harry for multiple reasons. Hold on, one's going to be a long one. 1. He is weak. No offense to Neville. If this piece of Voldemort's soul is really making Harry act like Tom Riddle in a way, then Harry's methods of recruiting should be the same. In Book 6, when Dumbledore is telling Harry about Tom Riddle's gang that he formed at Hogwarts was a mixture of people. One was the weak seeking protection. Does Neville fit this description? Absolutely. 2. He wants friends. Joining Harry would instantly put him in a friend group of 5, making him the 6th. Enough said. 3. Revenge. Neville's the perfect candidate for this little group, because he shares a common goal. Revenge. Voldemort indirectly hurt his own parents when Bellatrix Lestrange used the Cruciatus Curse on them. Even though Voldemort did not order Bellatrix to do this, I'm not sure Neville would see it that way. I still think Harry would go and try to defeat Voldemort in this book, but it'd be for revenge. I also believe Harry would bring Fred, George, and Neville with him. But in the end, Harry will still have to face Quirrell and Voldemort alone. A massive change would be when Voldemort asks for the stone. There won't be a moment of hesitation with Harry. Only he'll take things a bit higher. He would destroy the stone. Voldemort would then, of course, try to kill Harry, but Harry isn't going to use his mother's love to defeat him. Harry's going to use all the spells he has learned. Voldemort would be caught off guard of this, but before he can react, Harry would use the final spell to get rid of Quirrell and Voldemort. The rest can go the same of Harry being forced unconscious when Voldemort's soul passes through him, and Harry waking up in the hospital wing. Dumbledore and Harry's conversation can stay the same because Dumbledore doesn't suspect anything about Harry's true intentions, allowing Harry's operation to continue for another year. When Harry and his friends got off the train to Hogwarts, Ron would make a comment saying that it was over. Harry would say that it was far from over, leaving the others a bit confused. One real quick thing, at the end of each video, I'm going to essentially tell you the rankings in Harry's group. This part will change as the video continues, but here's the first one. Number 1, at the top, of course, is Harry. Number 2, Hermione. I bet a few of you probably thought it was going to be Ron, and that's what I thought too, and maybe that was the case at one point in the story, but Hermione had proven to be more smarter than Ron, which is why she's number 2. Number 3 is actually Ron this time. The reason is because of his loyalty to Harry. Number 4 and 5 are Fred and George. Do I need to give a reason? Finally, number 6 is Neville. He's the only in this position. He's only in this position because he only recently joined. And with that, we are done. Thank you all for watching. This video took a while to do, so please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.